For more on this, let's turn to a couple of radio talkers. Let's go to conservative talk show host Michael Medved in Seattle tonight, and also with us is Joe Madison in Washington, D.C. Now, these are two guys that would pay $357,000 to have dinner with me, but I just haven't asked them yet. The money is unbelievable, and we'll get to that. The money's unbelievable. We'll get to that in a moment, but I want to play with both of you gentlemen the what if. Michael Medved, from a conservative standpoint, what if Hillary Clinton were to be upset here in New York? How would you view the overall picture, and really what would it mean?
Well, what it would mean would be, I think she would not become the nominee of the Democratic Party for President of the United States, even though she still has a delegate lead. Because I think people are nervous in the Democratic Party and across the board, because what you have as a real possibility is two very, very vulnerable candidates, one as the Republican nominee, where the majority of Americans say, I could never vote for Trump. And very close to a majority of Americans say, I could never vote for Clinton. And I think that if Hillary loses tomorrow night, especially if Trump loses tomorrow night, it's going to be an earthquake because it's so widely expected that these two are going to prevail.
Joe, you get a sense from the Clinton camp that if they win here big tomorrow night, they're very close to putting this away. What's your response to that?
Well, that's because the arithmetic would be in their favor, and I've been talking about this over and over again. It is a matter of arithmetic. It certainly would give her momentum going into California, because that's the next big enchilada. That's the next big number. But Michael is absolutely right. I mean, the big news would be if Trump loses and Hillary loses. You know, it would be man bites dog kind of news instead of dog biting man. What worries me, though, about Bernie Sanders, and as I was listening to your interview, the word that keeps coming to my mind, Ed, is he's authentic. This is what Bernie Sanders has going for him. He is authentic with his message. His stance down through the years basically has not changed. But here's what worries me, and that is when you said these are people who have not voted before. Are they registered to vote? Large numbers don't necessarily, at rallies, don't necessarily translate into people going to the polls, and with a closed primary, it certainly may not translate.
Okay, so let's say Hillary wins tomorrow night by a pretty good number, and there's a lot of polls out there that say that's going to happen. It's going to take a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of motivation, I guess, for that not to happen. But what if Sanders pulls it off? What is his next move? Obviously, to go to the next campaign, but would this, Joe Madison, shift the strategy of the Sanders campaign to start leaning on superdelegates, saying you shouldn't have been involved in this kind of process before, and now that they, from a sales perspective, start asking for the order? Because so far Sanders hasn't done that.
Well, it certainly would be a seismic shift to do just that. You know, but I don't get. What really bothers me about is changing the rules in the middle of the game. You know, I mean, this just bothers me on both sides, to be quite candid. They knew what the game was going in. You don't change the rules in the middle of the game. Well, but to answer your question directly, if I were in the Sanders camp, I tell you, I'd be doing exactly what you suggested. No ifs, ands, buts about it.
In the last maybe 4 or 5 news cycles, Michael Medved, all we've heard is Donald Trump complaining about the process, and Reince Priebus coming on all of the shows everywhere saying, no, this is the way it is. Who's telling the truth, and who's going to win that struggle?
Well, that remains to be seen. It depends upon the California primary and the primary tomorrow night. If Donald Trump does not come very close to winning all 95 Republican delegates, he's through. Because under the rules of the convention, which will not be changed, he cannot win on a second ballot. For Trump, it's 1 and he's done. For Cruz, it's 2 and he's through. Ted Cruz has an excellent chance of winning on the second ballot. Donald Trump has some chance of winning on the first ballot, but only if he does very well. For Donald Trump, every day,